Good morning. Welcome in to the Out of Bounds Show. Brought to you by award-winning Dancing Rabbit Golf Club on the property of Pearl River Resort. Book your stay and play right now. PearlRiverResort.com, award-winning golf. Beautiful casino and resort. Inside the Golden Moon is the Timeout Lounge Sportsbook. And, of course, you've got Philip M. Steakhouse on property, PearlRiverResort.com. Our guests join us on the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line. And we welcome Larry Bowa back into the show. Longtime Major League Baseball player, coach, and manager. He has been on the show before, and we appreciate his time. Good morning, Larry Bowa. How are you?
Good morning. Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well. So I collected your baseball cards too, but as a kid in the early 80s, I had all of yours and Ricky Henderson and Dave Parker and Steve Carlton and Rose and Guidry, and the list goes on and on. And so Dave Parker passed away over the weekend. He was an unbelievable player for the Pittsburgh Pirates and Reds and so on. And what is your first memory of Dave Parker as a player, Larry Bowa?
I think his ability to beat you in so many ways. Everyone knew he was a big power hitter, but as you watched him progress through the big leagues, you saw what kind of outfielder he was, what kind of arm he had. He could steal bases. There really wasn't anything he couldn't do on the baseball field. He was an impact player. And he's one of those guys, when you go over the lineup, you circle and say, don't let this guy beat you, because he seemed to rise to the occasion when the game was on the line. He played the game hard. He respected his opponents. I know one thing, when he was on first and there was a double play ball hit, you better get rid of it, because he's going to try everything in his power to break up the double play. He was just a phenomenal athlete that could do a lot of things on the baseball field.
And talk about, for that time, how big he was, his size. He and Winfield, you just didn't have that many players like that, did you, Larry?
No. You mentioned Winfield, who was similar as far as their athleticism. But when you look at Dave from the side or something in the dugout, you say, oh, this guy can't run that good. He could fly for a big guy. I'm sure he could have played in the NFL if he wanted to as a tight end or something, but he was just a phenomenal athlete. He had a lot of fun when he played. And he was, him, Willie Stargell sort of groomed him when he first came up. I know that there was a statement that said that Dave told Willie, he says, it's going to be hard to replace Willie, Roberto Clemente. And he says, no, you're not going to replace, there's only one Roberto Clemente, and there's only going to be one Dave Parker. So those words came to fruition, because I don't think you're going to see another athlete that can do the things on the baseball field that Dave Parker did.
Just an unbelievable player. Also in the Baseball Hall of Fame, Dave Parker passed away over the weekend. Those were some damn good Pirates teams, weren't they, Larry?
Yes. Yeah, we had a big rivalry, man. They were their team and our team. We really didn't like each other. We respected each other, but it seemed like every time we played, there were bench clearing brawls, and eventually we got over the hump. And in 76, 77, 78, then in 80, we won the World Series. But they dominated before us. So there were two teams that literally, when they got on the field, you expected fireworks to happen, and 9 times out of 10, something did happen, whether somebody got hit, somebody took somebody out on a double play. But that's how baseball was played back then. I love that competition, and I love playing against guys like Dave Parker, because it brings out the best of you.
Yeah, it's interesting that y'all played so much back then, because the Steelers and the Eagles didn't, because they were in, different conferences, NFC and the AFC. But y'all being the two major cities in the same state were both in the NL, so y'all played each other all the time, which, like you just alluded to, made for a great, intense rivalry, right?
it was big time rivalry. Now everyone says the Mets and Phillies are a rivalry, but back then it wasn't even the Mets weren't even a consideration. It was the Pirates and Phillies. Both teams were very well managed. They had good players. They had all stars. They had Hall of Fame players that, as we find out now, it was a bitter, bitter rivalry. That again, there was all kinds of respect on both sides of the field. But when that umpire said play ball, we did everything in our power, and they did everything in their power to beat the opposition.
Man, those. So let's see. In 1983, I was 10 years old. By then, I had thousands and thousands of baseball cards. We were lucky back then, Larry. See, we only got a game every week, but in 81 or so, we got TBS and WGN, and that changed the game. So I got to see you and all the NL players like Dave Parker and so many other guys. We got to see y'all play all the time, so we were spoiled as kids. and some other, depending on where you were, if you had cable, whatever, we got it early, and that made it even better. So when we were, we would follow the Braves and the Cubs, but the whole NL drove this area here in the Southeast, obviously. Larry Bowa joining us on the Out of Bounds show, longtime player and coach and manager, Major League Baseball, kind enough to spend some time with us today. Okay. Pete Rose, your teammate, passes away, and then they come out and they say they're now going to allow him to go into the Hall of Fame. What was your initial reaction, Larry?
A little bit, I'm not going to say upset, but it sort of got my attention when that came out. I really believe guys like Pete, Dave Parker, and Dick Allen, especially Parker and Allen, who already the Veterans Committee had voted them in, and the fact that they've since passed away, I just don't understand why it took so long for Dave and for Dick Allen, and obviously Pete. I mean, Pete, if we could turn the clock back, if Pete would have just admitted what happened early, he probably would have been suspended for a year and then eventually would have been put into the Hall of Fame. But those three guys, to me, and I know there's some things that happened in their career, maybe that some writers didn't like. But if you just look at the body of work what all three of those guys did, there's no reason that you have to wait for someone to pass away to enshrine them in the Hall of Fame. I just think it's just an injustice to those guys. And the fact that, getting back to Pete, we talk about the gambling, and now you turn on the television, every other inning, they're promoting gambling. It's to me, that's hypocritical. It now all of a sudden it's legal. You can bet on guys getting hits. You can bet on guys striking out so many guys in a 9-inning game. I know there's a lot of money involved in this, but I don't know. I just think there's some stuff going on that I think they can address it a little bit better, especially if you look at the numbers that Dick Allen and Dave Parker and Pete put up. Those numbers are unbelievable, and I don't know how many guys are going to top those numbers, but it's a shame that especially Dave and Dick aren't going to be alive to go through the process up in Cooperstown. It's going to be a great sight. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people there. I just wish those two guys were still alive to enjoy it.
Larry Bowa, longtime player, coach, and manager, Major League Baseball, won a World Series as a player with the Philadelphia Phillies. He joins us on the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line. One of my favorite players growing up, Lee Smith. You played with him. What was it like to play? You know what, I always say this, Larry, when I was a kid watching y'all play for the Cubs, I felt like it took 3 days for Lee Smith to walk from the bullpen to the mound. But, man, the anticipation was awesome because of how good he was. I think he's one of the more underrated players. What was he like as a teammate?
He's a great teammate. And his routine was when the game started, he would be on the training table taking a nap till the fifth or sixth inning, and then he'd wake up. Because back then we didn't have night games in Chicago. They were all day games. So he would be on the table. And then if we had the lead or it was a close game, he would start getting loose and everything. And the fact when he came in the game, especially at Wrigley Field with the shadows in the 8th and ninth inning when those shadows were out, I have no idea how guys that did hit him, I don't know how they did it. This guy was overpowering, yet an unbelievable slider. Very low-key individual before the game started. Once that game started, he was as tense as anybody I've ever seen. But he usually, when he came to the mound, I mean, there were isolated instances, but the game's usually over. You got a 1-run, 2-run lead. Lee Smith comes in. I compared him because I coached in New York with Joe Torre. I know Mariano Rivera was the greatest ever, but you could put Lee Smith right beneath that because we felt as a team when Lee Smith came into the game was over.
All right, that was going to be my next question. What was it like to coach under Joe Torre, and why was he so effective?
Joe Torre might be the best manager, and as far as knowledge and his demeanor, the way he handled superstars. You know, people don't understand. When you have a bunch of superstars, there's a lot of egos there. And if you don't have the right guy leading, that could blow up real quick. Joe Torre had a way about him. His demeanor was unbelievable. But his knowledge of the game was unbelievable. And people that never got to see him play don't realize how good of a hitter he was. I got to play against him, and he led the league in hitting one year, and he couldn't run a lick, so he got no infield hits. But I'll tell you what, he could hit. And the fact that he's in the Hall of Fame, whether it was a player or a manager, it really doesn't matter because he's a definite Hall of Fame person. But it was a pleasure to work for him. He let the coaches coach, and his demeanor, when he walked into a room, he just caught everybody's attention right away.
And you coached with him with the Yankees and the Dodgers?
Yes, I went with him. When he left the Yankees, I left with him to go to L.A. And, all you got to look at his resume. Everywhere he goes, he won. I know he had some early trials and tribulations as a manager with Atlanta, but eventually he got to where he wanted to be. But he's a great man. There's no question about that.
That's awesome. Larry Bowa on the Out of Bounds show. Describe the difference in coaching, managing on the East Coast to the West Coast. Just the different vibe, the different approach.
Yeah, it's just on the West Coast, there's so many other things you can do. I mean, I was out in L.A. and a lot of times people would come in at the second or third inning and they leave in the seventh. On the East Coast, I mean, they're watching first pitch, they're watching last pitch, and the intensity level, it's hard to describe, but the intensity level on the East Coast is so much higher than on the West Coast. I don't know if it's because of the laid-back attitude on the West Coast. I mean, people come out, take a look at San Diego's attendance and LA's attendance. They draw, but it's a different vibe here, especially in Philly and New York and Boston. And I can tell you firsthand, teams do not want to come into Philadelphia in the playoffs. I never thought that home field had an advantage in baseball. I thought that guy on the mound, 60 feet, 6 inches, dictated, which they still do. But it's 3 hours of hell when you come here. Yeah. I mean, they, from pitch one to the last pitch, they are on you. It's a great environment. And guys that have never been through it, we have some guys now on this team that this is their first year playing here, and they can't believe every night it's a sellout. And I try to tell them, well, wait till the playoffs. You're going to hear, you think they're loud now, wait till the playoffs start.
Unbelievable. Larry Bowa on the Out of Bounds show, ESPN 105.9 The Zone. Larry, we appreciate your time. It was great to catch up again. Thank you for sharing some stories with us this morning.
All right, my pleasure, and I hope you guys have a great day. And as I said before, we're going to miss Dave Parker and Dick Allen and Pete Rose, 3 great ball players. And hopefully Pete does get in, but I know it's going to be an honor for Dave's family and Dick Allen's family coming up this summer as they get inducted into the Hall of Fame.
No question. Absolute legends. Larry Bowa, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Bye-bye.
Loved watching him play. Then he went on to have a fantastic career as a coach and a manager. Larry Bowa on the Out of Bounds show, ESPN 105.9 The Zone. Tip of the cap to his friend Dave Parker, who was a hell of a player and will go into Cooperstown in the next few weeks. We are the Out of Bounds show. We're brought to you by Dancing Rabbit Golf Club. Book your stay and play right now. PearlRiverResort.com.